Hi everyone, it's Legato. I'm back with another State of the Game video blog, and this time we are going to be discussing items. So one of the trends that I think is promising for the game is that the developers have started to solicit additional feedback and have set up a channel in the Auto Chess Discord directly to get feedback from the community. In the past, it's been a little bit of a challenge because the developers aren't directly engaged with the community on Reddit. So for the Western audience, there has been kind of limited access to provide the feedback, and now I think the community can weigh in and give their thoughts and hopefully influence the direction of the game in a more significant manner. So let's jump right in. The first thing I want to discuss is the relative power level of items in the same tier. So I think the place where this is most apparent is at the legendary tier of items, where you have items like Holy Spirit Lance, which is absolutely game changing. So if you get a Holy Spirit Lance on a 2-star Witcher, turn 20, turn 25, you have a Holy Spirit Lance on a 3-star Witcher, on a 2-star Sniper, even a 2-star Lightblade Knight. It can completely change the course of the battle. Like a battle where you would have been absolutely blown out and taken 10 damage, you can now come out on top on. There are some other impactful items at the legendary tier, but I don't think anything's nearly as impactful as Holy Spirit Lance. On the same vein, though, you have Heaven's Gift and Jade Pipe, which are really niche items and have a modest outcome on the battle even for their niche. So let's directly compare these items, right? So Heaven's Gift takes the 250 HP item, the +5 armor item, and the 650 HP large item, right? So if you add all of the stats together, it should be 250 plus 650 is 900 HP and 5 armor. That's if you don't combine the items. So by combining, what do you get? Well, you lose 325 HP. You lose the +5 armor, but you gain the 50% chance to block 50 damage. So that's let me see. It's the Dragonbone Shield. I'm used to the Dota name, so things don't come to the top of my head too quick. It's Vanguard in Dota, it's Dragonbone Shield in Auto Chess. So, the 50% chance to block 50 damage is something you're already receiving from Dragonbone Shield. So by upgrading it to the legendary item, you're getting 10% HP restore to all units in 3 grids and 100% chance to block 10 damage. I think those are very, very, very modest bonuses. And then I think you're also giving up a lot, right? So you're giving up 325 HP and the 5 armor for the passive and the active, both of which are pretty modest. If you compare that directly to Holy Spirit Lance, right? So Holy Spirit Lance, the constituent parts is you have the I think it's Magica Staff, which provides 10% ability damage. So right there, you're getting a 50% boost in the ability damage from 10 to 15%. It has the attack sword, which is usually 20 attack, and now is once again increased 50% to 30 attack. You have the 650 HP item, which no change. You're getting the full bonus on Holy Spirit Lance, and then you're getting the incredible active, which gives you 2 additional projectiles, which do 60% damage each for ranged units. So that is over an 100% damage boost if you're hitting more, if you're hitting three or more units at once. It's an 120% damage boost for a range carry, on top of getting either bonuses or no decrease in the combined flat constituent parts that go into making the item. So, I think when we're talking about power level, we should be thinking about how much does this item influence the game? Um, how niche is the item? Is the item only sometimes useful? Is it always useful? Is it useful to specific carry to specific carry units only? And in the case of Holy Spirit Lance, there are quite a few ranged carries in the game. There's a good chance that any comp you're going for, you're going to be able to put Holy Spirit Lance on one of the units. And I think the power level is just way, way, way greater than something like Heaven's Gift or even Jade Pipe. So, Jade Pipe gives you 200 magic block for units in 3 grids for 5 seconds. I don't think 200 magic block is that much. When you think about Tortola Elder doing 2-star doing, 650 magical damage or 600 magical damage, whatever that unit does, it's blocking a third of one ultimate, and then it's on a 30-second cooldown. So it's helpful, but I don't even think it's in the same weight class as something like Holy Spirit Lance. And then kind of the next thing to consider when we're talking about item balance is whether or not the item has a very specific purpose or can be used on basically any unit in the comp. So I'll give an example here. Axe of Fury gives melee units 30%, I think it's 20% cleave in a large, 20% pure damage cleave in a large radius, right? So that's going to be really good on melee carries like Hell Knight, like Doom, like Venomancer, but it's going to be less useful if you are going 6 Hunters or something like that, for example. I think the overall impact that Axe of Fury has on the battle is greater than the overall impact that an item like Dragonbone Ballista has on the battle. So Dragonbone Ballista, very good item. It allows you to get some big crits off, but it's not nearly as impactful as Axe of Fury. On the flip side, though, Dragonbone Ballista can go on any carry, right? So you can put it on a ranged carry like DK, Sniper, Fallen Witcher. You can put it on a melee carry like Venomancer, Abyssal Crawler, Shadow Crawler, and it's going to, contribute a lot of DPS to your carry without having an overwhelming impact on the battle. So items that aren't pigeonholed into a single comp or a single unit type, I can understand that their power level is slightly less, but I'd still like us to consider relative power levels for units of the same tier when we're thinking about balancing items. And then the other thing that goes into the balancing of items is not necessarily at the legendary tier, but particularly at the first item combination level. The bonuses that you get relative to the constituent parts. So a couple examples here. One, we can compare Oblivion Staff directly to Shadow Edge. So Shadow Edge is made with Wooden Club and Lucky Coin. So Wooden Club is 15% attack speed. So with Shadow Edge, you're no loss there. You're getting exactly what the item gives you. Lucky Coin is 10% evasion. Shadow Edge is boosting that by 50%. It's moving it from 10 to 15% evasion. And then on top of that, it's giving you a good pure damage equal to 20% of your attack damage, cleave to units within 1 grid. So this is, a really strong item to put on heavy hitting melee units early in the game. So, a 2-star assassin is going to hit really hard with this item. A 2-star abyssal guard can definitely carry through the early and mid game rounds with an item like Shadow Edge. Now, if we compare that to an item like Oblivion Staff, I think there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. So Oblivion Staff is made up of Hammer, which gives plus 20 attack, so you're flat there, and Wooden Club, which gives 15% attack. So already you're seeing a 33% nerf to the constituent parts that go into the item for Oblivion Staff. And then the passive is pretty niche in my opinion. So a 35% chance that the attack cannot be avoided. That works well against other carries or other tanky units that have items like Shadow Edge, Heaven's Halberd that give the unit evasion, and it also assists some against feathered. It also decreases HP regeneration by 35% for 5 seconds. So this has limited usefulness, especially in the early game. So it counters, the 3 goblin bonus. It reduces the regeneration by 33%, or by 35%. Venomancer, it can reduce the natural HP restoration of Venomancer, but to the best of my knowledge, this doesn't impact HP gain. So something like Unicorn's Ultimate, which gives HP, something like Warpwood Sage, which is using casting a spell and gaining HP that way. I don't think that Oblivion Staff reduces that. So if I'm thinking about Oblivion Staff early game, I would rather put the 2 uncombined items on my units than combine them, unless I know I'm facing a strong feathered opponent, unless I see that someone in the top 3 of the lobby is loading up evasion items onto a carry. Maybe they have Shadow Edge and Heaven's Halberd on a Hell Knight or something like that, right? But it's pretty limited circumstance in which the item's passive is kicking in, and the constituent parts are just better than the item attributes that are given to you by the combined parts. You can see that as well with the defensive items at the medium tier. So Python 1 used to only give 250 HP. They buffed that to give an extra 100 HP, so now it gives 350. So I'd say Python 1 is in a pretty good spot even early game. If you see someone in the lobby that's going Divinity, someone in the lobby that's going Mage, even if you see Cave Clan, now Cave Clan has Storm Shaman and Lava Shaman, which are producing silence effects. So it's pretty effective to commit to Python 1 early, combine it, and get the extra HP bonus instead of just carrying the 2 units uncombined. You are losing 5 attack damage, but it's not that significant, of an impact. The active's also incredible. Immune to magic and abilities for 4 seconds is going to be useful in the mid game. It's going to be useful in the late game. Now, if you compare that directly to Cloud Halberd, right, you're getting an additional 5% HP evasion on Cloud Halberd, but the amount of HP is flat, and you're getting a disarm on the enemy carry for 3 seconds. So if you compare those 2 items directly, in my opinion, the 4 seconds of magic immunity is significantly more impactful than the 3-second disarm that the item's active is providing. And if you look at the attributes, I'd much rather have the additional 100 HP from Python Wand, especially early game, than the 5% HP evasion bonus that Cloud Halberd is providing. Similarly, with Dragonbone Shield, you're not gaining any additional HP. It's stuck at 250 HP. And although you are gaining 50 block damage, 50% chance for 50 block damage, which can be significant early game when units aren't hitting that hard, I would think late game, there are many scenarios in which I would rather just have the 5 flat armor, which scales, as a percent relative to the damage you're receiving, than the 50% chance for 50 block damage overall. So I think Dragonbone Shield is in, a much worse place than the other 2 defensive items. I think Cloud Halberd could use some love. I don't think it would be overpowered for Cloud Halberd to go up to 350 HP. There is a consideration that Cloud Halberd can really be used in any lineup, right? It can be useful in Mage, it can be useful in Hunter, as a defensive item either on Warpwood Sage or just, to increase Sniper's HP. So it is very versatile and flexible in that it can fit into a ton of different comps and contribute. But I think the bonuses that it's giving you, just the 5% extra evasion and the 3% disarm, aren't really holding up to the benefits that other items in the same tier are providing. So the next general topic I want to talk about is Dragonists' approach to nerfs and buffs. So one of the things I'm seeing is that nerfs and buffs appear to be happening in a silo, meaning that they're not really considering items of a similar purpose and addressing them as a whole. One really good example of this are the recent changes to Pole Staff. So Pole Staff has seen a couple of nerfs in the last several patches. First of all, they put it on a 2-second delay from the round start for the active to kick in. So you're not the active, which gives a lot of mana to your units and allows them to get their abilities off more quickly, is occurring on a delay. So units that really rely on getting their impactful ults off quickly, like Siren, Tortola Elder, Storm Shaman, that this item has had decreased effectiveness. Also, they took away the percent component. It used to be, I believe, 10% HP damage in addition to the flat damage, so the items scaled better in the late game. If you compare that to an item like Teleport Dagger instantly warps you to the back line instead of a 2-second delay. It instantly fills your mana up to 50%, which is more than the active from Pole Staff is giving you. And then it also serves the purpose of allowing you to position. So if you think about Rogue Guard blinking into the back line and whacking on Hunter units that only have 1,000 HP and doing area of effect cleave to them, Teleport Dagger gives you a positional advantage in addition to the fact that you're instantly getting 50 mana. And I think addressing Pole Staff without taking a look at Teleport Dagger is a little bit of a mistake. I think in the same line of thought, you have Ice Armor, and that's in a different tier. That's the legendary item, but that provides AOE magical damage that instantly fills up your mana bar and allows you to get an ultimate off. So I'm not in love with the fact that they addressed Pole Staff without addressing other items that provide mana instantly and help you get your ultimates off before the enemy does. In the same line, Mjolnir was recently nerfed along with Maelstrom. So they have a maximum activation of every 0.5 seconds. So there's a little bit of a built-in cooldown on the magic damage that those items can inflict now. I'm fine with those nerfs. Mjolnir has always been a very impactful item in the early game, especially on range carries. Maelstrom, and Mjolnir is also a very good item late game. I'm fine with them decreasing the power level, but at the same time, I'm disappointed that an item like Holy Spirit Lance did not get looked at all. So, as we addressed before, Holy Spirit Lance is giving you, either equal or greater than the constituent parts, and it's also effectively an 120% buff to damage for range carries. I've had games in which a Light Blade Knight 2-starred has done 13,000 damage in a round with Holy Spirit Lance and a couple of Frantic Masks. So I know that Holy Spirit Lance is newer, so maybe they have less data on it, but I've had games before where someone was going to be knocked out, but they very, very, very much so lucked out and got a Holy Spirit Lance on round 20. And they put that on a 1-star Fallen Witcher with Blink. So, they might have had a 6B synergy and only, 3 of their units were 2-starred and the rest were 1-starred. And they had that 1-star Fallen Witcher, and that was enough for them to stabilize and completely come back. So in my mind, a player that's low rolling that much or not managing their economy that well should have been knocked out well before round 25. In that game, the person ended up getting, I believe, second place in the game. So when you have an item that's impactful, that it can make a 1-star 3-cost unit carry the team until round 25 when that unit's 2-starred, I think that's a problem. Right? And I don't think Mjolnir would have had a similar level of impact on the game as an item like Holy Spirit Lance. One of the other things I'd like the developers to consider when they're talking about item focus and purpose is limiting the amount of different things that an item can do. So Barbaric Cuirass in the last patch, it was made by combining 2 armor items and the 40% mana regeneration when attacked item. I forget what that item's called. So it was changed. So instead of the 40% mana regeneration item, it was changed to the 30% attack item. And they completely removed one of the prior benefits, which was 40% mana gained on hit when your unit is hit. So they kept the 8 armor and 15% attack speed to allies buff. They kept the -8 armor and -15 attack speed debuff to opposing units, and they altogether removed the 40% mana that was associated with this item. I think that's very good. I think people still view Barbaric Cuirass as a very strong item. It fills a niche. It especially helps you punish lineups that don't have a lot of armor, like 6 Hunter, and if you put that on a carry unit that can blink to the back line and start hitting Hunter units that now have gone from 5 armor to -3 armor, it's a really, really big damage buff on your carry. It didn't need to have the 40% mana gain, and that was just something that made the item that much better. And it helps the developers focus the balance when you remove effects that aren't necessary for an item to be good. Now, if you contrast that with Ice Armor is giving you +10 armor, which is I'm looking at the graphic here. It threw me off. So the Dragonist site needs to be updated. It's showing Black Ice Lance and the item that gives 10% ability lifesteal as the combined parts. It should be Ice Plate Mail, which is the +5 armor item, Lucky Coin, which gives 10% evasion, and the 10% ability steal item. So getting back on track, it gives +10 armor, which is double the constituent part from the 1 +5 armor item that goes into the item. It's 15% evasion, which is a 50% buff over the Lucky Coin. It's 10% life steal, which is parity with the item that went into it. And then it gives one of the most impactful actives in the game. So it gives a 300 magical damage AoE instantly at the start of the battle. So very likely that's immediately going to fill up your unit's mana pool and allow them to get their ability off before the enemy team's units are able to get their abilities off. So something like Dark Spirit, Siren, Lava Shaman, Storm Shaman, anything that CC related, AoE related, that the earlier it gets off in the battle, the more it puts the enemy team at a disadvantage. Ice Armor is great for that. So it's doing so much magical AoE damage that you're pretty much instantly filling up your mana pool. On top of that, the actual magic damage itself is nothing to shrug at, right? 300 AoE is more AoE than a lot of units are providing in their ultimates. And then in addition to that, it's also giving 30% attack speed reduction for 5 seconds. So if you think about facing an assassin team, which almost exclusively relies on physical damage to deal their damage, that's essentially a 30% damage nerf for the first 5 seconds of the battle, which is super impactful. So I think it's a case where ice armor is doing too many things at once, right? It's reducing the attack speed. It's doing all the magical damage. It's providing the ability for your units to get their ultimates off borderline instantly at the beginning of the battle. And then it's also, giving a bonus or parity with all of the constituent parts that add into it. So I think to better align ice armor with other defensive items of the same tier, they should take a cue from what they did for Barbara Cuirass and reduce the number of things that the item is trying to accomplish, right? Maybe pick one between reduction of attack speed and doing magical damage, or you could reduce you could reduce the parts, right? So it could be 5% evasion, 10% evasion plus 5 armor. And that would make the item significantly less impactful as a defensive item. Because right now it's doing too much, and I think it's going to be very difficult for them to isolate what's overpowered as an item, what's overpowered about the item when they make a specific item take on too many things at once. So that's my thought on items. A couple different topics were raised here. Would love to hear community feedback on what they think about items. And yeah, I guess we'll end the stream for now.